George Whitefield was a British evangelist who became a celebrity in colonial America during the Great Awakening. Whitefield's ministry and popularity stimulated unity within the American colonies. So how did this traveling preacher help unite the colonies? First, Frank Lambert credits newspapers and other printings as major contributors to Whitefield's popularity. These publications reported on Whitefield and published his sermons, leading to a wide anticipation for Whitefield as he toured and ultimately provided the colonies with a sense of shared experience and a common rhetoric. Secondly, Whitefield chose as what Jerome Mahaffey describes as middle-of-the-road theology, with the intent to promote an ecumenical vision of Protestantism. This is highly effective because the colonies, though primarily Protestant, were diverse in beliefs. Whitefield overlooked denominational lines and preached a foundation of community of believers. An emphasis on community of believers easily transitions into an emphasis of a community of citizens and subjects, a transition from religion to politics. Whitefield's sermon, Britain's Mercies and Britain's Duty, is an example of Whitefield's blend of religion and politics. First preached in August 1746, the sermon outlines mercies God bestowed on Britain, namely in the form of a godly king, King George II, who provided political and religious stability to his subjects. Britain's mercies is in direct response to the ending of a rebellion Charles Edward Stuart led in Scotland to re-establish the Stuart line that was deposed in the Glorious Revolution. This rebellion is the second failed attempt of the Stuarts to remove George II. Whitefield interprets these failed attempts as further examples of God's mercy and God's favor of Protestant George II over the Catholic Stuarts. Thomas Kidd states that Whitefield sincerely believed that a Catholic imperial power represented a dire threat to the religious and political liberty upon which his preaching depended. In response to God's mercies and the threat of Catholicism, Whitefield believed that it was the colonists' duty to remain faithful to King George II and to Protestantism. Whitefield's sermon, Britain's Mercies, becomes a us versus them, Protestant against Catholic, in the hopes to preserve British political stability found in King George II and a Protestant Parliament. Britain's Mercies is significant beyond Whitefield's glowing praise and encouraging the support of George II. At the time Whitefield delivered this sermon, there was a growing Scottish population in the colonies. Bonnie Prince Charlie just tried to lead a rebellion in Scotland. A growing Scottish population could be a threat, but these were Scottish Presbyterians, and Whitefield was able to appeal to them through unity of a Protestant foundation, something his rhetoric always emphasized. In studying the connection between the American Revolution and American evangelism, Mark Knoll believed that the Great Awakening's political importance was indirect, mainly in the fact that the revival opened possibilities for migration of political language into religious speech. George Whitefield, his cry for Protestant unity, and his sermon, Britain's Mercies and Britain's Duties, certainly opened several possibilities for the migration of political and religious language because of the intercolonial unity he forged. Thank you.